Hi, everyone. Mitch from PickDogs.com here with Ron Romanelli and Chris Ruffalo here with your college football show. A day late. Romanelli had school yesterday. He didn't take my advice, which was to drop out a while ago. But we're going to do college football and go through the entire schedule like we do every single week. Last week, I got kind of roasted. I lost my big play also. I got crushed last week. How'd you do, Ron?
Didn't do good in college. No, not actually. Yeah, no, not good in college. My free picks weren't as bad as my premium plays, but yeah, definitely we had a good week a couple weeks ago, and then a rough week last week.
I had a really good strategy going with my college football big plays, and then I went. I was going to do it again last week, and then I got away from it,
Mm.
and I lost the game. And my strategy was simple: take Clemson every single week, and it was working really, really well. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I was sort of in the same boat. For me, the rough patch came early, started to come on strong a little bit later, but yeah, I've had better college football days, but I've also had much worse.
All right. Well, we got college football tonight. Two games that, this is the beauty of weeknight college football. Two games we wouldn't be watching on Saturdays. We got UAB in Western Kentucky and Temple and Tulsa. It's pretty much a crap fest. Ron, what do you think?
I don't know. I think that UAB game's pretty good. I mean, two of the better teams in the Conference USA, if you like that conference like I do, but should be a real good game. I think WKU for me is the play. I take them on the money line. I just think these are very similar teams. Both have pretty good offenses, pretty good defenses, solid special teams, but I think Western Kentucky does have a little bit of an edge when it comes to. I think I like their offense because it's a little bit more two-dimensional. I know UAB's got a good secondary, but WKU, they haven't given up a single sack in the last 2 weeks. Their offensive line really holding up really well. And I've seen a lot of UAB football, at least at the beginning of this season. Their defense kind of takes its foot off the pedal sometimes in the second halves of games. They struggled quite a bit against Georgia Southern earlier in the year in the second half. So I do think Western Kentucky is the better team, so I'd take them on the money line. But definitely a tough game, a game I wouldn't touch if it was just a Saturday game.
We definitely have some line movement going on there. How about you, Chris?
I'm sticking to my guns on UAB with the under in that game. I think if you're getting a point and a half, I would take UAB on the money line. But if you're getting 2.5, I would take UAB plus the points because I wouldn't be surprised if this game ended up going to overtime. But yeah, I think the UAB pass defense is what's going to be the difference here. I mean, we've already seen UAB ground a strong aerial attack in Georgia Southern earlier this year, and I think they're going to try to execute the same game plan against Western Kentucky. I agree with Ron. UAB more one-dimensional of the two here. They tend to lean on the ground attack a lot more than passing the ball, but they tend to do it well. And I think it's going to be a tight game, but I would lean towards UAB on the money line here.
I'm going to go with Temple on the money line. I gave it out in the morning show. I'm going to stick to it. I just think that magical things happen in these Friday night home games. I mean, if they play this game 10 times on a neutral site, Tulsa probably wins 9 of them. But if they play it one time at night at Temple on a Friday night, probably a pretty good chance here. The only thing that is going against them, though, in this one is that the Phillies are playing at the same time. And so the city of Philadelphia is going to have a lot of focus on that game, not as much on this game as they normally would.
Yeah, I mean, even if Phillies weren't playing, I'm not sure how many people would show up for Temple.
You never know. You just never know. The Owls.
Hoot, hoot.
Not the only Owls around either. We go to the Saturday slate. What a slate it is. Got Kent State versus Akron, Zips. Rutgers versus IU, Indiana, the Hoosiers. SMU versus Cincinnati. Baylor versus Kansas. Ohio State versus Iowa. Army versus ULM. Navy versus Houston. Clemson, 14.5 at home here against the Cuse. Tennessee Martin. Miami Duke. Ron, any of these do it for you?
Yeah, I think in that Iowa-Ohio State game, as you see Ohio State laying those 30 points, but the total's only at 49.5. Just goes to show you how really bad that Iowa offense has been. I mean, they've only had more than 300 yards in a game once this season, and that was against Nevada, who's been one of the worst teams in FBS this year. So to me, if you don't think that Iowa's going to score, like I kind of have a feeling they might get shut out, I think it's worth it taking the laying the points with Ohio State, just because even though Iowa's defense is one of the best in the Big Ten, I still think Ohio State could get to those 30 points, and that's enough for a cover in the end. I could see a 31-0, 34-3 final score. So I lean towards the under, but I also like Ohio State laying the points in that game. There's a lot of really good games in this 12 o'clock slot. I like the under in that SMU Cincinnati game. I think Cincinnati this season, obviously last year, you're not going to be able to repeat that playoff success that they had last year, but I think their defense is actually ahead of their offense. I'm not in love with Ben Bryant. He does make a good amount of mistakes at quarterback, but the defense stops the run pretty well. Get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They had 11 sacks against Tulsa a couple weeks ago, so I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think SMU hangs around there. I like SMU plus the points as well as the under, so I'm also liking the under in the Houston Navy game. Houston's offense, I like Clayton Tune just as much as Chris does, but this year he just doesn't seem, I don't know if Chris agrees with me, but he just doesn't seem the same. He's got a pretty good touchdown interception ratio, completion percentage is solid, but just not as explosive as we've seen as Houston's offense before in years past with Dana Holgorsen. So I'm just not in love with this offense. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. We know Navy plays solid defense, defensively against the run especially, so I think we're going to go under in that Houston-Navy game.
Chris?
Yeah, I will say about that Clayton Tune things. I agree that it's for me it's more so about the Houston offense just not looking as explosive as it did last year. Obviously, Tune can be a part of that, but I think it's just the offense as a whole. Maybe that's why Tune doesn't look as impressive as he might have looked in the last couple of seasons. But the couple games I like here, I like Ohio State as well, laying the big number. To me, this just feels like a spot where Ohio State gets to beat up on an Iowa team. Spencer Petras getting just averaging 6 yards per pass, not going to cut it against this Ohio State unit. And Ohio State, I think they're really looking to, impress the playoff committee. The first set of rankings for the playoffs coming out in a couple of weeks. And really, Ohio State has taken no prisoners since that Notre Dame Notre Dame game. 45 points in each game. 45 plus in each game since. I think Iowa's in a bit of trouble here, as good as the defense has been. I also like Cincinnati laying the points against SMU. SMU's problem this year has just been that they haven't been able to play against the good teams, against teams like, TCU. I'm trying to draw a blank here on the other teams they played. UCF and Maryland, all losses. They've beaten up on Navy, beat Lamar, and beat North Texas. So I think Cincinnati going to give them a bit of a wake-up call here. And I also like the under between ULM and Army, two of the slower-paced offenses in the country. And I just think points are going to be extremely hard to come by in that one. I don't know how we get into the 50s, so I like the under between ULM and Army.
DraftKings is offering plus 2,500 odds on Iowa here on the money line. I think that's where I'm at. Plus 1,700 at Bet365. Most books in the plus 800. The offshore is in the plus 800 to 850 range. But the play here is Iowa on the money line against Ohio State. They're going to win this game outright. They're going to shut them down. And we've seen Ohio State get sloppy. Every year they lose a game like this. It's always at home. And this is going to be the one that they lose this year. I could see that Iowa defense just absolutely frustrating these teams. And Ohio State's ego is so big they can't get their head through the freaking door. And it's like they're just going to end up throwing it right into the teeth of this defense, running it into the teeth of this defense, and they're going to get physically pounded, just like the last time I won a big bet like this, taking 22.5 when I was 22.5 point dog against Ohio State and beat them outright at plus 1,500 odds. Fortunately for me, I was in Vegas that day and ended up turning $200 into $34,000, and that was the first one that got me started on that heater. And I think that this Saturday, I'm not saying that that's going to happen as far as that heater goes, but I think there is solid value here on the money line on Iowa. If you can find the book that's willing to do it, because some books are not even taking money line action on this game because of either they don't want to take the beating on the Ohio State side, which I don't see that there's any exposure to them on that side. Minus 12,500, minus 8,000, minus 10,000. I don't see the exposure there to the books on that side. I see all the exposure on the other side with Iowa, who is a very live dog in this game, a team that started the season ranked in the top 10 and fully capable of matching up against Ohio State, built to match up against Ohio State, built to play against Big Ten teams. And I just really think Iowa's got a legitimate shot to win this game outright. It would not shock me in the least. We saw Ohio State struggle offensively against Notre Dame. You're kidding me, right? I mean, seriously. Other than that, Michigan State stinks. With Rutgers. They lost to Nebraska. For those of you keeping score at home. Wisconsin, coach fired. Toledo, Arkansas State, and then the 21 points that they scored against Notre Dame. I don't know. Show me where they've played anything remotely close to this defense that they're going to face in this one in Columbus. Not even close. They're going to get beat. I can see it. I think the 29 is a gift if you just want to take the points in this one. Aside from that,
all right, you sold me. I'm on Iowa. Now, I think I like the under now more. I think you made some good points. You got to look at the strength of schedule. I mean, they haven't faced. I mean, Wisconsin's defense is, I would say,
they're not bad.
Above average.
They're not bad.
Right. But
they're not as good
as strong. Not as strong as Iowa's, and not as strong as Wisconsin's defenses we've seen in the years past. And Wisconsin really just struggled quite a bit last week against Michigan State.
I just think betting is about taking your shots. I think it's about finding your shots.
Well, this is a shot. My book doesn't even show it on the money line. So.
Right. They won't even take action on it. This is, it's all about it. Like if you want to win big in betting, you might go down on this game. It's definitely a possibility, that you go down on this game. But
it's just that Iowa offense. Oof.
But terrible. Yeah. But what if you put them on a short field in a 13-10 game? What if you get them on a short field in a 13-7 type game, which is this could be. This could be. We've seen Stroud struggle against Notre Dame. I mean, he struggled, Yep. And I mean, we've seen. I think the issue, if we have Iowa here on the money line, which is where I'm going, I think that you look at halftime and you see where if there's a hedge out or way out to maybe balance it, because Ohio State has a way of running the football extremely well late in games. They kind of wear you down. And there is a chance that Iowa defense is going to be on the field an awfully long time, But, they don't sell beer at these games. So I think that's the Iowa's advantage as well.
Well, I mean, Iowa has the big time special teams advantage too. So if you're playing field position, then, Iowa can compete there. But their offense they have to get over 200 yards. They're not going to compete if they 150 like they did against South Dakota State. So.
Iowa 2-0 against the number on the road this season as well. To me, that's the star of the show at that time slot, but I'm going to take Clemson as well at 14 points, not at 14 and a half, but 14. Dabo's shown that he can dig the dagger in. Now, these teams have similar colors, but they're not exact. Clemson's more of a purple, while Syracuse is a navy blue. Goes with the orange, and Clemson has a little bit brighter color orange, while Syracuse is more like a Cleveland Browns-ish orange. So go with Clemson in that one. I also like Duke plus the points against Miami. I think Miami wins the game. I think Duke covers. I think laying points with Miami this year is a death march. And, I think there are better days ahead for the Canes,
Definitely
better days ahead. But, Jimmy Johnson's first year as head coach of Miami, they lost their last 4 games of the season, gave up over 45 points a game in each of them. And this team looks pretty similar to that, where they had a lot of talented players on the roster, but, it just took a year of having a new coach under getting Jimmy's system in there. I mean, Miami was coming off a national championship, but it's like that year. But having a year under your belt with a different coach, different system, and that's what it took. When you look at the Doug Flutie play, and Flutie throws that pass to Gerard Phelan, if you ever see that, If you look at Flutie's ankles when he throws the pass, it's true freshman Jerome Brown at his ankles. And Jerome Brown filled out the next couple of years, became NFL Hall of Famer. Played with Reggie White, Philly. Go to our next slot of games. Interesting conversation there. Ruffalo's on Ohio State.
You got me, though.
Got one.
One fish.
Christian McCaffrey's going to solve Jimmy Garoppolo's problems in San Francisco. His 73 minutes of fame. Trey Lance. My 73 minutes. I waited
really
2 years for 73 minutes.
For a guy that's always injury prone, it's a curse to wear the San Francisco jersey because their running backs are out every other week.
Oh, everybody is out every week in that team. Remember last year, the whole defense, like the first game of the season?
This year, too, the defense is getting banged up.
McCaffrey just wanted an excuse to be on the sidelines.
Yeah, I guess so. That's like the worst possible situation to be in.
Well, his father played for his father played for the Niners at the end of his career. I predates you guys are like, what? He has a father?
We know he has a father. We didn't know if he played in the NFL.
Really?
I'm not.
He's the Ed McCaffrey? You guys never heard of Ed McCaffrey?
I've heard of Ed McCaffrey. Didn't know it was his father.
Of course it is.
That it was the butcher down the street.
Thought that was the guy that played in NCIS.
It's kind of like when we're doing the NBA show and Jay talking NBA and Jay is like, yeah, I never saw Jordan play. It's like, whoa. Romanelli's like probably never seen Kobe play.
Oh, yeah, sure. Kobe. I grew up with Kobe.
So he's a Kobe. You never saw Jordan.
No. Oh, I mean, if you count the Washington Wizards era.
We're not. Central Michigan against Bowling Green. Buffalo against Toledo. Ball State against Eastern Michigan. We're macking it up here at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Woo. Ohio, Northern Illinois. It's a Romanelli team right there. Husky. Notre Dame against UNLV. 27.5 points for a Notre Dame team that lost outright to Stanford and Marshall at home. Texas Tech and West Virginia. La Tech and Rice. So it's not the most sexy time slot, but a time slot nonetheless. Ron, what do you think?
Well, my last name, Romanelli, you guys know I'm Italian, but I do have 10% Irish in me. So give me the Notre Dame Fighting Irish laying the points. I like Notre Dame here. I think it's a bounce back spot, obviously, coming off the outright loss to Stanford. But I think the Notre Dame defense I don't think UNLV does much of anything offensively here. And UNLV, they started off 4-1 to start the season. Their offense looked good. The defense improved. You look at their last two performances, 40-7 to San Jose State and 42-7 to Air Force. The offense, about 200 yards per game in each of those games, not running the football, not throwing the football, offensive line struggling. And then on the defensive side, they cannot stop the run the last 2 weeks. Obviously, they're going to Air Force is going to run at least 300 yards on you because they run the triple option, but they had 406 total yards on the ground, 5.3 yards per carry. A week before, 5.6 yards to San Jose State offense I'm not really impressed with. So I like Notre Dame in a blowout. I'll take them and lay the points.
Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under 65.5 between West Virginia and Texas Tech. I think that's where I saw it last. I think there's supposed to be heavy winds going in this game. It's going to really, really slow down two teams that like to throw the football. I think it's just going to be one of those ugly games where both teams are forced to play it on the ground. And when they do air it out, it's going to be those dink and dunk Graham Mertz type passes for Wisconsin. So I'm going to take the under 65.5 between West Virginia and Texas Tech.
How dare you say Mertz on our show?
You keep calling him Ethel Mertz.
He is Ethel Mertz. Fred Mertz, Ethel Mertz. Either one.
I lied. I'm not Irish.
No.
Nope.
Shocker.
Gotcha.
I think Marcus Freeman era might be a quick one at Notre Dame. Normally they welcome these guys with open arms, and then all of a sudden, eventually you have to perform. for him. Losing to Marshall and Stanford is going to make it a quick hook for this guy. They lose to UNLV too, 27.5 at home. Not a good offense, not a good defense. I'll take my chances with the 4 touchdowns and the running Rebels and a bad Notre Dame team. Kind of like West Virginia against Texas Tech. It's a lean at best. And Eastern Michigan in the underdog roles, my friend. It's like when they're favorites, nope.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs.
Really, every MAC team when they're in the underdog role. You can't trust any of these teams laying points.
It's true. We'll have those weekday MAC games coming up.
I mean, just look at Kent State. I think they were up 28-7 over Toledo last week, and then they lost like 55-20 or something, or 28. By the end of it, it was just brutal. I mean, those offenses and defenses, they're all pretty volatile. 52-31 final score in that game, and Kent State was up 28-7. So you were getting 7.5 with Kent State. You're up 28-7. You're feeling good. You lose by 21.
So not next week, but the following week starts MACtion with Tuesday, Wednesday, and Wednesday night MAC games. Starts in 2 weeks. Then we get 3 MACtion games a night on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And then heading into that Thanksgiving week, Tuesday night MACtion, Thanksgiving night Egg Bowl. Ooh, Friday is Baylor, Texas. Wow, thank you, college football. Because most of the other games stink, but Florida State moving to Friday.
Oh, yeah.
This year. So pretty good games there.
Give me the Knowles.
Wow. There's a quitter for you.
Can't be a quitter if you never started.
Wow. James Madison.
Ooh.
James Madison taking on Marshall. James Madison finally suffering a loss last week. Georgia Southern got him. Miami of Ohio against Western Michigan as the MAC slips into that 3:30 time slot. Oklahoma State, 6.5-point home dogs against Texas. LSU -1.5 against Ole Miss. This is the Sharp Chaser game. The Sharps liked LSU at plus money. Doesn't mean they're necessarily going to like them here. It'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. UTSA against North Texas. Give me Liberty or give me BYU. Oregon versus UCLA. Wisconsin, Purdue. Tulane versus Memphis. Wake Forest, Boston College. That's like the game that's like a major conference game that it's like, why do we even bother doing a video for it? Like no one will watch it. Old Dominion versus Georgia. It's like, which one's going to get more views, the Tulane Memphis video or Wake Forest Boston College? It's going to be close. Georgia Southern, Old Dominion, Maryland, Northwestern. That's another one that's not going to get any views. Charlotte, FIU. Ron, any of these just absolute horrible time slot here.
I like Charlotte laying the points against FIU. I just think Charlotte's offense and Charlotte overall is just a volatile team. They put up a good amount of points with Chris Reynolds at quarterback, but the defense, one of the worst in college football. Luckily for them, they're playing one of the worst teams in college football in FIU. I think it'll be back and forth for a little while, but I think Charlotte pulls away and wins by 3 touchdowns in the end. I also like the under in Memphis Tulane. I think it's kind of crazy to just look if you look at all the teams in FBS and you look at how much a defense has improved over the season from last year, Tulane's got to be right up there. Last year, their secondary, one of the worst in college football, FBS. But this year, they have really improved, really, on all fronts of the defense. They're pretty good against the run. They're great against the pass. They get some pressure on the quarterback, not a ton, but they hold teams to under 300 yards per game. I think Memphis is a team that relies on the pass and a team that really struggles on the road under Silverfield. I think they're going to struggle offensively in this one. I think Memphis's defense is good against the run. I think it'll be good enough to keep this game under the total. So give me the under in that Memphis Tulane.
I took Memphis last week with the points. I got them. Got to win with them. Chris?
Yeah, there's quite a lot I like in this time slot, but I'll go with James Madison laying the 11.5. I know Marshall not necessarily get the credit that they probably deserve for having a solid defense, but James Madison, they're treating every game like it's their Super Bowl because there's no postseason for this team. And I don't think for the first loss of the season is going to affect them as much as it would, a team that's normally in a conference title race. I think James Madison's just going to come out and savor each moment in their first year in the FBS. They've been playing much better. And I'm just not a fan of Henry Columbia at quarterback. I think if you stop the Marshall ground attack, you force Columbia to make plays with his arm, and it's not something I want to see Marshall try to do. So I'm going to go with JMU by 2 touchdowns there. And it's Degenerate Friday, so why not? I'm going to take Oklahoma State on the money line. I'm not buying into Texas. They haven't done enough to justify laying 6.5 on the road at Boone Pickens Stadium. It's supposed to be homecoming, I think, as well for Oklahoma State. So
wow,
it's going to be absolutely rocking, and I expect Oklahoma State not only cover out, I think they win that game outright. And I'm going to take the 6.5 with UCLA against Oregon. I just think it's a closer game than that line suggests. I like Thompson Robinson, and Bo Nix gets necessarily the recognition, but DTR is only behind him by 16 passing yards this season. Has a better touchdown to interception ratio, a better completion percentage. I think he keeps UCLA in this game, so I take UCLA plus the points there.
The Oregon run defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I always like teams that can defend the run.
UCLA's is good too, though.
Oregon is good against the run.
So is UCLA. We're going deja vu.
They're also home. And
I think I like Oregon. I'm just letting you know.
Alton's a tough-ass building.
I like the Ducks. Quack, quack.
UCLA is the worst 6-0 team in football. And Charbonnet is good, but not good enough. Oregon hasn't turned the ball over. Outside of that Georgia game, they've looked pretty good. I'm going to go with the Ducks here. Despite what Ruffalo has to say. I like Northwestern against Maryland. These are the games that Northwestern always plays well. When kind of least expected is when they do it. I also like Boston College against Wake Forest. I think Wake can put points on the board, but I think Boston College can drag them up and down the field a little bit. We'll continue to bet against Wisconsin. It's been pretty easy money this season. I don't have Paul Chris to kick around anymore, man. I had a really good run with that guy. It's like any guy that starts as the running backs coach, It's like, he's going to be run heavy no matter where he goes. Then he went to Pitt. He was too run heavy there. Went back to Wisconsin, too run heavy there. It works if you have James White, Melvin Gordon or something. Doesn't work so well with we don't even know who they have. I was at a James White game in Madison. Yep, I was. I'll find it for you guys for the next segment. But that's I'm good for that time slot. I like Charlotte as well. We go Stanford, Arizona State, Missouri, Vandy, Colorado State, Hawaii, UTEP, Florida Atlantic, ULL against Arkansas State. That's not Lafayette, Chris. It's ULL. Texas State versus Southern Miss, New Mexico State versus San Jose State, New Mexico versus Fresno State. It's another good slot, Ron.
Yeah, a real good one. I'm going to take the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. I'm going to take the points here. I just don't think Colorado State's offense is good enough for them to warrant laying 6.5 in any game, really, against any team, even though I'm not – we've heard me say plenty of times I think this Hawaii team could be bottom 5 in FBS this year. I mean, you got to give them credit. They are improving. They got their first FBS win of the season last time against Nevada, 31-16. They outgained them by over 100 yards. And I liked San Diego State in that game versus Hawaii a couple weeks ago, but I got to give Hawaii credit. I mean, they held in there. Their offense was solid in the second half of that game. Now they've had 3 straight games against FBS opponents where they've had over 340 total yards, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a real improvement for this team overall. And, they played Vanderbilt tough in the first half of that game in week 1 or week 0. They played offensively pretty well against Western Kentucky in the beginning of the season. So I think Hawaii does enough here to maybe win this game outright, if not cover the number. But Colorado State's offense under 300 yards this entire season. They can't run the football. Their offensive line, one of the worst, and their quarterback injury problems have been a real issue for them. So give me the points with the Rainbow Warriors. It's the only game I'm really loving right now in this time slot.
Yeah, Ron and I are on the same level on that one. I do like Hawaii as well. Colorado State, I'm still having a hard time getting over that beatdown loss to Sacramento State. And, Colorado State got that win against Nevada. They needed 2 defensive touchdowns, and then they needed a do-over on that last-second field goal to get the win. And Colorado State hung around against Utah State as well. But, again, that was, the 4th-string quarterback, I think, for the Aggies in that game. So, I think Hawaii's just got more going for them. They've started to turn it on a little bit in recent weeks. Timmy Chang finally reached out and getting a hold of this team and getting some solid performances out of them. So I'll go with Hawaii plus the points as well.
I like New Mexico against Fresno. I really hate Fresno this year. Their fans have not been nice to me on YouTube over the years, and, so we'll call it a revenge spot for me. It's a revenge spot for us.
Yeah.
I hate you. I hate your glasses. I hope you die. Those are Fresno type comments I've received over the years. Of course, Arkansas State, we're the official non-ULL program and website. Another letter from the athletic director. The hell's with that, man? Please don't. He didn't even say please. It's just it was like a condescending,
Don't even.
It's like your coach goes to an SEC program. Now you think you got the nerve to send me a letter.
It's like joke. I'll take Hawaii over Colorado State as well, and I like UTEP against the Owls, and Mizzou over Vandy. Who in the hell do they think they are, getting less than 2 touchdowns? What world? Missouri's one of those teams. Alabama taking on Mississippi State. The Force taking on Boise State, who, since firing their offensive coordinator, is winning some games. Penn State, Minnesota. Interesting game in that one. Got East Carolina, UCF, South Carolina, Texas A&M. Do they fire Jimbo Fisher? Makes a lot of money. They're in for what? $100 million to him? Oh,
I think so.
That would be the biggest biting of the bullet, I think, in the history of sports if they fired him.
Wow.
Yeah. Is it $100 million they're in? It's got to be something.
I think it's close to that. Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna fire him, but
Louisville, Pitt, TCU, Kansas State. You got identical uniforms there. I mean, you better before watching and rooting in the game, just make sure you're rooting for the right team. Oregon State, Colorado, Wyoming, Utah State, Nevada, San Diego State, and Cal, Washington. You notice college football kind of peeling back the later night games because of the NBA, I think. And then next week they'll probably be at it again. But we're heading into the final month of college football right here. So it came and it went. It always works that way.
Yeah. Well, in this time slot, I'm starting to think the Big 12 is getting a little bit like the MAC, where I don't really like laying points with most of these teams because they're just so volatile. And I think that's the case with Kansas State and TCU. I'll take the points with the Wildcats. I think it's going to be a close game. Should be a real exciting one, just like we've seen plenty of Big 12 games, similar to the Oklahoma State TCU, similar to the Kansas TCU. That sure, TCU ended up winning that game 38-31. They pushed against the number, but it was really just a back and forth touchdown for touchdown type of game there. And even with Kansas's starting quarterback going down, so TCU's offense is explosive, but the defense I'm not really in love with right now. They were good against the run to start the year, starting to struggle a little bit. In the last 3 weeks, giving up over 140 rushing yards to each of those opponents, and the secondary hasn't been very good this season in terms of just yards per game in conference play. So give me the points with K-State in that one, and then I'm also going to take a look at the UCF ECU game. I think it's one of the more exciting games for me. I like those middle end conferences like the American. I think UCF is just really improved from the beginning of the year. I didn't really have this team on my radar going into this season, but man, I mean, UCF looked last week against Temple. I know it's Temple, but just
The reason
700 total yards.
Because you're a hater.
I'm a hater. That's exactly the reason.
No.
No, but I just, Cincinnati gets a lot of the talk in the AAC these days, but UCF is still, they claim that they've won the championship the last 20 seasons, it seems. They have the banners up in the stadium at the bounce house, but I think it's going to be an over. I like the over in this one. ECU, defense was not good against Memphis, really couldn't stop anything towards the end of that game, but the offense, I like Holton Ahlers despite Mitch's comments about him. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. And I think he's going to do some damage here. Both teams score some points. Give me the over in UCF ECU.
He's a douchebag. Chris, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to take Boise State plus the points against Air Force. I think Boise State could win this one outright. And they have a really good rush defense. I know Air Force, that option offense can be hard to stop. But Boise State looks completely different since Taylon Green took over at quarterback, since they got rid of Hank Bachmeier. And I think Boise State keeps the momentum going here. I also like South Carolina plus the points and money line against Texas A&M. I think, if you're going to look for another reason for Texas A&M to consider firing Jimbo Fisher, it's going to be here. I don't want any part of this Aggies offense laying points on the road, especially against South Carolina, who started to pick it up a little bit, and getting points as a home, or getting South Carolina as a home dog sounds good to me against Texas A&M. And I'm with Ron. I'm going to take Kansas State plus the points against TCU. It doesn't win it out right there, so I'll take Kansas State.
I think that Ruffalo's been in Boise State fantasy camp a little bit too long. I'm a big Boise guy, and I have been for a long time. But wins over Fresno State, San Diego State, and Tennessee Martin do not make you a changed team. It means you've played against a super duper soft schedule. And those games against San Diego State and Fresno State on the blue turf in Boise. May the force be with us. Taking Air Force in this one. I think they're just a better team this year. Playing focused, and they're dialed in. I also like South Carolina against Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M can beat some cocks, but I don't think they're going to beat these cocks in this one. I think, I'm going to go with
pretty quickly.
I'm going to go with South Carolina in this one. I have lots of friends that have gone to South Carolina, so I get all this from them. They have shirts, you can't beat our cocks, and then they also have tattoos of the South Carolina Gamecock, like down by their ankle, and talk about their cock down at their ankle and all that other stuff.
Nothing will beat the Toronto and the Yankee series when you always see that 9 BJs are better than 1 Yank. Just saying. Sorry. Brought baseball to the college football show.
Well, Phillies and Padres tonight. Yankees and Astros tomorrow. The Astros named the starter Hunter. What's his name? Hunter. What's his name? Hunter. Whatever. That's what I put him in. Bye.
JV Junior.
No, that Hunter. Whatever his name is. That guy's like ridiculous.
Hunter Brown, is that his name?
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
Garrett Cole's getting the ball for the Yankees.
Oh, Houston run line.
Yeah.
I don't even understand that. But
Naylor was saying he was Garrett Cole's daddy.
Oh.
Could he hit the home run off of him?
As long as Anthony Rizzo doesn't get another hit this series, I'm good.
You really don't like Rizzo?
Nope, hate him.
I'm surprised.
He's the type of guy that I think, like, if you went to high school with him, just like a bully jock, just like one of those guys that just everything.
I don't know.
Just seems like it. Because in Chicago, he did commercials when I lived there with Bryant. And
Yeah.
it just seemed like it's like I was Major League Baseball. I used to be like one of the people that evaluated their marketing campaigns. I used to be like on their list. They took me off after the Brian Rizzo.
Mm.
I was removed. So they said, "What do you think?" People respond to this: "Two dumb jocks." Yeah, I don't think we're going to be needing you any longer. It's like there's a guy that everybody hated in high school. Thought he was better than everybody else. I don't know. Penn State, Minnesota seems like it's probably going to be closer than that. Maybe it's a 4-point game. I think Manny Diaz finds a way to keep Minnesota close there. I'm not a big Manny Diaz guy. I like Pitt against Louisville. I don't even understand how Louisville's favored in that thing, to be honest with you. I like Kansas State plus the points against TCU because William Lease went to TCU. Same reason we faded Andy Dalton last night. Jay didn't even catch the references last night. I was like, Andy Dalton's looking for William Lease on the bench. And like, to come on in, it's like he's trying to throw the ball to Lease. It's like, who is he throwing it to? I don't know, William Lease. It's like that walk on that never saw the field. Yeah. But it has his pants in his videos. There, I should put a pair of pants on.
Just khaki shorts.
What are these? Those are my 8th grade Levi's.
Those are the pants I wore when I hit Miami and on the reversal.
These are the pants. When I told the Vegas blackjack dealer I didn't have anything left, and they told me the pants, please.
And this is the shirt that I was wearing at the craps table when I said, "Hey, you're that Boise State quarterback."
Oh man. Oregon State's tough to figure out, but at home at Corvallis against Colorado, I expect them to run it up, have a good time at the Buffs' expense. Utah State, I can't figure out, so I'll be staying away from that thing. Same with San Diego State. Why is Cal only 7.5-point home dogs against Washington? Because Washington can't win on the road. So if you're betting Cal, take them on the money line.
Oh wait, it's almost. I forgot. It's time to play. Where's UMass?
Where are
They're
they?
on their bye week, folks.
No UMass this week.
No
Anything
UMass
else
this week.
Anything else you guys want to talk about? College football or anything else? Christian McCaffrey, Trey Lance, Anthony Rizzo.
Nothing in particular. I mean, I do like a good Italian.
How about great college football players that ended up playing baseball? Reggie Jackson, Kirk Gibson.
All right, how about this?
How about Drew Henson?
There you go.
Yep. Tom Brady's battery made at Michigan. And he was seen as the better of the two. What are you doing, Chris?
I'm trying to see if I can put together a parlay quickly.
Oh.
Iowa money line.
UMass money line.
New Mexico money line.
It's almost like UMass. Almost like they didn't even take the field.
Oh man,
Listen,
we could
UMass is not losing this week.
Chris, we could do a 3-team dog of schools who directly dissed us or people that went to that school that directly dissed us parlay. So we could do Arkansas State money line with New Mexico with
Kansas State.
Kansas State.
I'm in.
There you go. Lock.
I actually kind of like that one too.
Well, I'm just trying to get this together quickly. Give me 1 second.
I kind of like it too. It was Arkansas State, Kansas State, and what was the other one? New Mexico?
Yep.
I don't know if I can get behind New Mexico, but
Anyways, I'll just give it out. People can look up the odds themselves. Oklahoma State money line, Purdue money line, Kansas State money line, South Carolina money line.
New Jersey Devils to make the playoffs.
After beating up on the Islanders yesterday.
NHL. Well, I had a feeling if I wasn't an Islander fan, and I could say this after the fact, but I do mean it. If I was not an Islander fan, I would have had a premium on the Devils because I knew we were pretty much cooked. That was a really bad spot for the Islanders.
You're like me with the Leafs and Montreal and Ottawa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we usually play well against the Devils, but the Devils, they're pretty good this year. Their goaltending is an issue, but they're good.
So Leafs played in 2 games at TCU in 2009. So that's not the Rose Bowl season. He played in 2 games, but not in the Rose Bowl season. UNLV in New Mexico, but he did not record a catch. But his high school stats, he only had 3 catches for 27 yards.
That's why he's a walk-on.
Yeah, well, he was a walk-on, but he had in high school he only had 3 catches for 27 yards.
He went to the wrong meeting and showed up and ended up being a walk-on. Supposed to go to
freaking Rudy had better numbers, man. Rudy Rudiger. Better numbers. Willie Lease. What a douchebag. Anyways, thanks everyone for joining us. I don't know why we waste 2 seconds with that guy. I haven't seen his channel since he called Ron a lying, scamming tout. Enter lying, scamming tout Ron. And then hold it. Ron is actually better than everybody else because he mentioned the palm rankings. He mentioned the palm rankings. That makes him better than Mitch.
Listen, I can give you 20 reasons why I'm better than Mitch, but not the Ken Palm rating.
It's okay. Believe me, there's a very long list ahead of me. So I'm all good with it. Oh my God. William Lease, TCU has lost 30 straight games he's gone to. 4-46 overall in games that he's gone to, true road games. Jeez. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Make it a winning day.